Hey, how we doing, everybody? Welcome in to the Slate. We are a DraftKings show. If you have found us, we are on the air in this 5 o'clock hour, Eastern Standard Time, up until 6-ish here on the DraftKings DK Nation Twitter handle. And we are also streaming live on YouTube and Twitch. That is how you can find us. Of course, on YouTube and Twitch, you can get involved in the chat, drop your questions, drop your feedback, drop your hot takes. Say how much you hate us. What else, Jeff? Did I cover everything there?
Hate us? Come on, man. What are you talking about? No hate here.
Fair. People hate our takes.
No hate in the DraftKings YouTube channel. It's not allowed. No. It's like, what do you have to hate in life right now? We've got like new Game of Thrones, She-Hulk's on. We've got, the NFL, college football. We've got like a cool PGA event. Good God, man, there's nothing to hate in the world right now. Well, there is, but I'm just saying, there's a lot of good stuff going on.
Yeah, you're probably right. Maybe we can handicap which dragon is going to win most valuable dragon by the end of this. Like MVP or MVD, most valuable dragon by the end of this new Game of Thrones prequel stuff that's out. We'll save that for later, but we want to discuss the NFL mostly on this show. We'll also discuss the Tour Championship with Jeff when we wrap. Golf, we're just getting our feet wet with golf, of course, on Mondays. But at this time of year, everybody, and we've said this the last couple of weeks, we're going to be heavy football for the next couple of months because that's what we all want at this point in the year. We're just a couple weeks away from the season kicking off on that Thursday night in September. It would be Thursday, September 8th. That's 2 weeks from this Thursday. We get Bills Rams to open up the 2022 season. There was some news today in the National Football League. It's kind of news we saw coming, but officially, Carolina Panthers head coach Matt Rule has named Baker Mayfield the starting quarterback of the Carolina Panthers. So it's Baker time in Carolina. Panthers are the third favorite in the NFC South behind the Bucs and Saints, respectively, at plus 900 on the DraftKings Sportsbook. The Carolina Panthers win total is set at 6.5 wins. Jeff, what is your reaction to this news? This came out, if you did the sweat today, this came out right when the show was about to end at like 11:50 something. So
yeah,
what do you got?
Yeah, it was after our NFL segment for sure. It's no shock here. I mean, we've been talking about the Carolina Panthers as if Baker Mayfield is the starter anyways. So, the writing is on the wall here. I mean, like Sam Darnold, I don't even know what he would have had to do in preseason to grab the starting job here. Clearly, the Carolina Panthers want to see what they can do with a different quarterback before they go back to Sam Darnold. So, Carolina, you bring up the odds there. I don't have the division odds in front of me. I just have their win total. What are they at division? I can't see that.
Plus 900 to win.
900 still. Yeah. I mean, it is funny because we did talk about the NFC South specifically today. It wasn't in regards to the Panthers, but I think that news affects the Panthers a little bit. To start like the summer, I was pretty bearish on the Panthers. And if they hadn't gotten Baker Mayfield, I'd still be bearish to the point where I'd be telling you to take the under 6.5 wins. With Baker in there, I see this team and McCaffrey. I can't be as bearish. Like I think that 6.5 wins, it's actually almost like I'd probably switch. I'd probably flip at this point. And it's not really like it's not really like being team Baker or anything like that. It's just team competent quarterback over Sam Darnold and team stability with the potential of Baker Mayfield and Christian McCaffrey being there for a whole year. And yes, these guys both have had kind of injury problems. But we can't predict injuries in the NFL. I think with both those guys there and with this other news that I'm going to talk about, and it is news, it's actually news today, regarding the Bucs and their O-line, I think you got to give the Panthers a little boost here. I think that 7 wins is very doable. I'm not bullish on the team or enough to suggest start thinking about them to win the division, because there's 2 elite teams in that division, in my opinion. But I'm not going to be the guy who says go under anymore. They're kind of just off my radar, quite frankly, for win bets. I think that the move stabilizes them a bit. And like I said, Tom Brady now starting potentially without 2 starters on his O-line. Does that make Tampa a little bit vulnerable? Maybe for just the start of the year, maybe for mid-season, does Carolina suddenly have a better chance to pick up a win versus Tampa this year? again, all things that I think you got to factor in with the win bets. So yeah, it was a good move by the Panthers. I don't think it's going to lead to anything crazy happening, but I give them a better shot at finishing like 8-9 or even 9-8 now for sure. And I'm not going to touch it at 6.5.
We did this last year, and I fell into this trap last year quite a bit. We all did. It was a really rocky first month of the season for a lot of teams. No one really separated from the pack. But you look at that opener now against his former team, the Cleveland Browns. That becomes a game to me where if Carolina is going to get anywhere near a 6.5 or you get to a 7 wins for an over, they've got to get off to a good start here. Cleveland at the Giants week 2. Then you've got the Saints, who have a very formidable defense. But when they start that Saints game week 3, this is their next 5, including the Saints at home. You play the Saints, you get the Cardinals, the Niners, at the Rams, home Tampa. That starts a brutal stretch of games. But just looking at it, knowing 6.5 is the mark, you just go right through the schedule. The Giants feels like a winnable game. Yeah. Both Atlanta games feel winnable. And then you've got Seattle on the road in December. Who knows what they look like by that point in the season? They could be looking at trying to tank to get a better draft pick. And then you got the Lions on Christmas Eve at home by the end of the season. So right there's 5 right there, I think, that are not sure things, of course. I know this league is any given Sunday, but those are 5 right there. I'm like, okay, they're going to be right in that neighborhood, but it's close.
They're probably going up against Detroit, like you said, at home. A lot can happen, but they could, it feels like at worst, they'll probably be like even money, right? Like at worst, they could easily be favored by 3-4.5 points, depending on Detroit there. They're favored week 1 against the Browns. They're favored by 1.5. It's not like a huge number. It actually tells us that like the books think the public or, the betting money thinks the Browns are the better team, because generally we give 3 points aside for home field, but the Panthers are the favorite week 1. Like you said, that's a winnable game for them week 1. They get off to 1-0 start. They've got Atlanta. That's why I just say I see that 6.5 number now. With the stability quarterback, I don't want it. There's other teams I'm interested in unders are, but that, Carolina, unless the number moved, no.
Are you daring at all to invest in a Baker, his passing yards total, his interception numbers?
So this is where it gets weird, because if you can't bet the over on Baker Mayfield props this year. I think it's really not smart to do so. When you're betting quarterback props, you obviously want a number that is going to give you some flexibility. Like if your player misses a game, you still want to have the ability to hit that over. I don't think that the number with Baker Mayfield is overly terrible, but it's not super giving either. Daniel Jones's prop is lower, just as an example. Carson Wentz's prop is lower. Now, I don't like Carson Wentz, and I certainly am not going to bet him, but that's a significant gap. And if you look at Carson Wentz and Baker Mayfield, they kind of share a similar problem. They have competent backups, and they share another problem, is that they've been inconsistent throughout their career, to the point where they will get pulled. They will get sat for poor play. Aaron Rodgers isn't getting sat for poor play. Tom Brady's not getting sat for a poor couple games. Baker Mayfield and Carson Wentz, they will get sat because they have competent backups for a game. So you need to factor this in. With Baker, you're not just fading injuries. You're not just fading terrible play. You're fading him getting pulled. So no, I still kind of like the Baker under, quite frankly, because I think that number, if you're giving me Baker at 3,500, whatever Wentz is at, sure, I might consider it, but I'm not going over 3,700. There's a good chance that Baker just stinks for a couple weeks. The team's like, hey, let's throw Sam Darnold in there. We're we're 4 games below 500. Let's see what he looks like. No, you can't take Baker Mayfield over. I'm not saying that his under is a great prop either. I think there's a good chance he starts all the games if he stays healthy, but there's definitely a higher chance with Baker Mayfield getting pulled than with most other quarterbacks in this league.
Well, and I would also argue the other difference with the Carolina Panthers is they have a desperate coach. If they get off to a slow start, his pivot is to go to a different quarterback and see if he catches lightning in a bottle with Sam Darnold. Carson Wentz was brought in. This is his first year in Washington. I think Ron Rivera, while he's always kind of talked about at the end of the year of being on the hot seat, they did reach the playoffs in the 2020 pandemic season. But to me, Ron Rivera having enough clout in the league, whereas Matt Rule is in I think this is his third year coming up now with the Panthers out of Baylor. Matt Rule's in a spot where he's running out of time. So he might push the panic button sooner rather than later if it's not going well.
Yeah. And just to that point, I mean, it's interesting you bring up Ron Rivera, because one of the reasons that Washington brought Ron Rivera in is to remember some of the things that this franchise has been through and is still going through with their owner. Ron Rivera gives that franchise a legitimate face, like a guy, a respectable guy at the front that people, he's not going to do something silly because he's a good guy and people really like him. He's well respected. Is he the greatest coach? He's had losing records 5 of the last 6 seasons, and he brought in Carson Wentz, but that's not really why he's there, to be honest. He's there for other reasons. And I think it's a good point. Matt Rule is there supposedly to be the college football genius and turn this Carolina Panthers franchise around. He hasn't really done it. This is Matt Rule's last chance, I'm pretty sure, this year. That's why they brought in Baker Mayfield. But again, it's a great point by you, because if Baker through 6 games isn't cutting it, he's gone. Rule's not waiting here. He doesn't have time to wait. So yeah, again, I still like the underside for Baker. I was expecting him to get named starter too. That's not a shock. If anything, maybe watch to see if this number goes up. Yeah, it's still at 3,700 flat. Maybe you get it at 3,750. Maybe it goes up to 3,800 by the start of the season. But I'll take the under. Maybe
even an under on his picks, 13.5, because who's to say he's going to be in there long enough to reach 13? That's in a way a negative take on Baker Mayfield. If you take an under, 13.5 is a number that dictates he'd play the whole season if he's going to reach that kind of number.
Yeah. And again, sorry, I had to get there for a sec. If you are I think going over, the interception prop, it's a fair point. I would lay off the interception prop completely, because taking the under, you're either thinking he's going to have a great year and be far more efficient than he has been in the past, or he's going to get pulled. And predicting when he's going to get pulled or injured is really tough to do.
Right.
If he's terrible and he could throw 14 picks in 10 games and still go over it, or something like that. But I don't want to go over either, because to your point, what if he doesn't play the whole season? So the interception prop, it's a big number too. It is a weirdly big number. I know I was looking at that before the show, and I mean, what's Wentz down there at? Does he have 10.5?
10.5 for Carson Wentz. He threw 7 last year. Why
it's so? I have my screen set to here we go. There. Now
Carson Wentz, also to remind everybody, Carson Wentz had Jonathan Taylor last year. So that offense was built around Jonathan Taylor to I'd much rather go over Wentz at that number. I also think Wentz, I don't know if he's less likely to get pulled, but I think it's more likely Ron Rivera gives him the benefit of the doubt long term, just because of the stuff we talked about. But it's a much smaller number too. And this leads to another good point, because I do like the under on the Washington Commanders this year. I know the last time I looked, you could find 7.5 wins at plus money going under. I'll take that. If you're getting plus money, at 8, obviously you're getting minus 120. Yep. That's fine too, because 8 gives us a push. So, minus 120, I don't mind eating a little juice. I do like under on the Commanders. I think the Giants will be better. The Giants have a softer schedule. The Eagles definitely improved. Cowboys are still solid. I see the Commanders as the worst team in that division. And look, the other point, and you kind of hit on this a moment ago, talking Ron Rivera, comparing him to Matt Rule, is, well, Matt Rule's an offensive coach too. So he might look at it and say, all right, well, I've got enough. I'm not saying I think this, I'm saying what he might think. Well, hey, I've got enough up here in my brain as an offensive guy to go to Sam Darnold again. Whereas Ron Rivera is like you said, he's not, his offensive coaching days, he's not an offensive coach. So that is a disadvantage to Carson Wentz, who had Frank Reich in Indianapolis. So, and by the way, Baker Mayfield, 4 years in the league, interceptions each season. Rookie year, 14, 2019, 21 in 16 games. 2020, he only had 8. He threw 26 touchdowns, 8 picks.
Right.
And last year was 17 and 13. So he was one off, or he was a half off that total of 13.5.
Yeah. And did he play every game last year? No,
14. He played 14 games, and he was hurt. Yeah. Even the games he played in, he was hurt.
He was. And again, that's kind of been the big crutch of Baker Mayfield backers. And I understand it. He was clearly not looking as good as he did in 2020. I don't know. I also worry about like just quarterbacks. Like he's had limited prep time. I mean, we're talking like a month here, people, to like learn an entire playbook. It's not easy.
Yeah, you forget he was signed super late or he was dealt super late in the offseason.
Yeah. So. That's the thing that worries me the most about Baker. I do think that like he's better than last year. Like I think he's a better quarterback, but at the same time, he hasn't been consistent. Like the Odell Beckham thing with his father bringing it up. It's so silly, but like at the same time, it's a good, like when you see Odell Beckham go from the Browns to being just like useless to being dynamic again, to being like a huge playmaker. He's on his way to being like MVP of the Super Bowl before he tore his ACL in a completely different offense on a different team with a different quarterback. It's telling. Like you can't help but be like, okay, maybe this was a Baker Mayfield problem. And from what I saw, it kind of was. So yeah, very cautious. I still think it's a good move by Carolina to bring him in, but I just, projecting a team for 7 wins instead of 6.5 wins, like it's not that big a compliment.
What jumps out as a pro also, but could also be looked at as a con of this signing is, well, for the Carolina Panthers, like you said, why not bring him in? They're not paying him. Like Cleveland took care of that for them. So that's another reason why, if it doesn't go well early, well, hey, it's not like we committed all this money to him. We can just cut him and say, that's it. Thanks for coming in. We gave you a chance. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. So that works both ways. If you're paying him nothing, you feel no added pressure to have to keep playing him.
Yeah.
Prove that the signing
it kind of reminds me of the Patriots and Cam Newton, like,
yeah. Oh, that Belichick was stubborn. It wouldn't take Cam Newton out of the game.
No, I know, but that's the thing. I don't know what Rule's going to do. I don't think Rule will be like Belichick because of all the factors we've discussed. So anyways, we probably talked enough about the Panthers.
That was also, that was also an indictment of, I think, Jarrett Stidham not being ready. That was a lot
that's true. And again, like, I'm not saying Sam Darnold is miles above Jarrett Stidham, but he's at least more competent. He's more ready.
Second overall pick. I would hope a little bit.
A little bit, not much.
Yep. What else is on your mind? I know, like I only brought up Garoppolo again just as a joke. We don't have to talk about Jimmy. We've run the Jimmy G topic into the ground. Like once he's moved, we can talk about it. But what else is on your mind here as the season nears?
I mean, just going over some. The preseason is more to me just about looking for edges with not necessarily like we know what the big names are going to do. I mean, at this point, we know like, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, like these big names, nothing's really changing much with these guys. Maybe the biggest news we've had is like the O-line issues with Tom Brady, but I don't think that's going to change anything from fantasy perspective. It's more like these other players, like, the Pittsburgh situation is really interesting with their O-line just being terrible and Kenny Pickett looking good. What are they going to do there? How's that's going to affect, the receivers there? Because, Pickett could be an upgrade for the receivers, but at the same time, like, is Pittsburgh going to do that? Because do they want their rookie just getting pummeled week in, week out, which he's absolutely going to do behind that O-line. So, watching little situations like that right now play out and looking at playing time for like, running backs, there's a ton of just like, backups and guys like Damon Pierce for the Houston Texans, starting to get just a lot of heat. Romeo Doubs playing well, really just paying attention to that. And then just, getting ready for the season. So I will say this, and I'm going to hammer this one more time because I got the air on the NFC South. This line hasn't moved. The Saints are still plus 310 to win that division. I know I'm going against your boy here. 2 O-linemen down.
Can't beat that team though, except in the playoffs.
No, except for the playoffs. That's the thing. The Saints regular season have had the Bucs number, and you look at these two defenses, the Bucs and the Saints. I swear to God, you cannot find two more similar units. They are very, very similar. They've got good D lines, very similar stats. I think they ranked like 6th and 7th in yards or per game or something. And PFF had them graded like both top 8. They're just very similar teams in that regard. And then, offensively, they both have new head coaches. Obviously, Brady is a huge advantage, but like, is he plus 310 to like minus 133 advantage. And then especially when you add in the O-line injuries and the fact that like the Saints added receivers, I just think the gap is too wide. Like, I'm not even saying like, oh, the Saints are for sure going to win this division or something, but like at plus 310, am I taking a shot here? Absolutely, man. I think the Saints are very solid, like up and down the lineup. And Jameis Winston was setting career highs in this offense last year. Like they don't even need him to play that good to win.
Mm-hmm.
So they got Kamara for the whole year. Like I was expecting this line to be like plus 200 with the Kamara news, with the Brady O-line news. This has not moved at all. Nobody wants to bet against Tom Brady. I think you should. I think you should for the division. Absolutely.
When Brady first joined the Bucs, his opening start was at New Orleans, and they absolutely tore him apart.
Yeah,
and what was the big issue in that game was lack of protection.
They shut out the Bucs last year.
And they've got him week 2 this year at home. Saints open at Atlanta, home Tampa, at Carolina. They play Minnesota at home, which I think a lot of people think Minnesota will be better. And then they play Seattle. They've got a nice little schedule to start the year. If they want to get off to.
That's the other thing. If you just like, Jeff, I'm not betting against Tom Brady. Go to the win total on the Saints.
Okay.
It's a good team. They're clearly at least.
Okay, let me ask you this. So just thinking ahead, it's not thinking too far ahead. Week 2, Tampa with a banged up O-line with not scrubs necessarily, but second or third string guys taking over. They play the Saints. Tampa's at New Orleans week 2. What do you think the line is? A touchdown?
Well, okay, let's assume they both win their opener.
Tampa is at Dallas, and then New Orleans is at Atlanta.
I mean, it's got to be like even money. Like Tampa, it can't be minus 3 New Orleans because like Tampa's the favorite to win the division. I would say it'd be like even. Okay.
Well, there you go. I mean, that kind of tells you that kind of speaks to your point. Is Tom Brady plus 310 better? That argument would say no, because if the Saints win that game, then you've got a leg up, and that number probably the updated odds. And my point is the updated odds. If the Saints beat the Bucs week 2, get a head-to-head win in the division in the second week of the season. That's huge. Win total.
And again, not to go too far, but I kind of like Dennis Allen as a head coach more than Todd Bowles as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe that's just like my preference, but Todd Bowles, I just remember from being.
Byron Leftwich did not leave, correct? He's still there as the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Leftwich was rumored to get the Jacksonville job, but what's his face got it? Doug Peterson got it. That's what happened.
Yeah. He's still there. They were thinking he was going to take over Tampa, but then they gave it to Bowles. I think it's mainly like Tom Brady's the effective head coach of Tampa. Like, let's be honest.
Right.
So Bowles, I think, was just more like the figurehead guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
My point was Brady vibes with Byron Leftwich. If it was a new dude in there, maybe that could also lead to some pause and think, oh no, I mean, Tom's going to try and do it all by himself, which I think he's very capable of doing, by the way. But, I'm fair.
Are you worried about Tom Brady with the whole, like, oh, I'm retired, I'm unretired? Like, do you think
he takes 11 days off from camp, Mr. Committed to the whole off season. And that's a little sketchy.
A little weird, isn't it? I don't know. Like,
Jeff, I think you're hitting on what should be more concerning. Forget him being out for 11 days. Their whole line is crap right now. Jensen's out. They lost I forget the other guy, the guard, the starter. That's a problem. That is a huge. He needs a protection in the pocket to do his thing.
That's what I'm saying though. Like I woke up today and I'm like, another O line is down. This line has to have moved. Hasn't moved. Plus 310. It was plus 310 3 weeks ago. So
Saints win.
I think it's the best value on the board that like no one's really talking about.
8.5 wins for the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, and I'll take the over on that. I mean, they have to go 9-8, 4 games against the Panthers and the Falcons.
Yeah. Okay. Any more analysis to add on that, or does that just
that's just again, I want to hammer it home. I've written about this bet. I've talked about it like 4 times now, but again, it's just because of the injury news, it gets brought up again, and at some point, someone smart someone on Twitter or someone like with like more followers is going to bring it up eventually, and this line will move. So
just to give folks the timeline, so we're going back now a week. In the last week for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Ryan Jensen, out for the season. He may, Todd Bowles said he may or may not come back. That was a week ago.
Yeah.
You fast forward 3 days later, Jonathan Hubbard on the injured reserve. He's an offensive tackle. You go 3 days later, Tristan Wirfs, their first round pick from a few years ago, considered day-to-day with an oblique. And then we find out Aaron Stinney, guard, out for the year.
Yeah. And Pierce Dietrich on the Sweat this morning made a kind of a good point. Like, Stinney wasn't that great an O-lineman anyways, but still, like, you need depth. Like, we're not even in the season yet. What if like week 1, another guy goes down, dude? Like, O-line is not where you want to be losing people. Left and
if you want to read into Leonard Fournette, the whole like being out of shape thing, I know he made a joke about it on Twitter before training camp started, but that's a kind of big deal too.
Yeah. I'm pretty comfortable fading the Bucs this year. I'm not comfortable with the fact that I'm going to take them like miss the playoffs, but I am pretty comfortable fading them from the perspective of like, let's jump on these Saints odds instead, you know?
Yeah. I hope it doesn't end rocky for my boy, but it could. And by
Rocky, he's
Rocky for his standards might be
how old is he? Is he 46?
45. This is the age 45 season.
45. It's 45, dude.
Yeah, it's a lot to overcome.
Yeah.
And you're trying to run the show by yourself. And we haven't even talked about that Mike Evans pulled a hamstring again. That always happens. That was pre-Brady that was happening. Chris Godwin's coming back from an ACL.
God, it could be like Julio Jones and then Tom Brady out there week 1.
Julio Jones is ancient. They don't have Gronkowski.
Are these guys going to be able to stay up for the primetime games? Good God, man. You know, like early bird special on.
I hate that I'm convincing myself that
I've talked you into being anti-Tampa Bay this year.
I hate you. However, I will say this. I did get a bet in on Tampa to win the Super Bowl the minute Brady tweeted he was coming back at plus 2,400.
Right, I remember that.
I feel good about that still. That's pretty
good.
That's
a great hedge.
Yeah.
You know, like you should be betting Tampa unders now because like if they do outperform, you'll have that in your back pocket. So
that's a good point. Yeah.
It's a good spot to be.
All right. What else we got? What else we got in the old football front before we transition to golf? Anything else?
No, nothing. I mean, look, tonight we got, Atlanta, Dallas preseason.
Atlanta Jets.
Is it Atlanta Jets? Oh yeah, Atlanta Jets, right? So we were talking about Dallas before. That's why I had Dallas in my brain. It's Atlanta Jets.
Dallas would probably be a better game.
I don't know. Dallas preseason. Dallas treats preseason like it's like July practice. Like I've never seen a team care less about preseason than Dallas. But the Jets, they're starting backups tonight. Like obviously Zach Wilson's out. It looks like they're just kind of like, okay, let's just keep everyone healthy until the season starts. They're kind of in that mode. Atlanta's favored by 4.5. They're going to have Ritter out there, Mariota. The first teamers will be in there. Honestly, I might just pile on Atlanta. I think there's a good chance you'll just see the Falcons win by like 7 or more. The Jets they're scared. Like I think that the coaches are going to be scared to put guys out there. They can't afford any more big losses. They're probably counting their lucky stars right now. Everyone in that organization in the Jets is just like, they're shook because like they came this close to like having a full season of Joe Flacco. Like, and now they're like, hey, Elijah Moore, our star rookie running back, even our guy from last year, Michael Carter, like these guys, don't let these guys touch the field. I know the line is huge for preseason, but like, I would just pile on Atlanta here. Atlanta's got a bunch of guys they got to try out. This is a team that's just in flux. They're kind of just going to be like, up and down the depth chart all year. So I think you'll see Atlanta just pound the Jets tonight, and the Jets will just get out of there and be like, no starters, no one, you're not allowed to touch the field.
Who built this to be a primetime game? I mean, it is preseason, but geez, I mean,
yeah, I don't really know. I guess maybe they were building off the Zach Wilson hype. They'd figured Wilson would be in for this game, right?
Right, that's fair. Yeah. But even the other side, it's like, all right, Mariota, does that box?
I don't know why Atlanta's in a primetime game. No, I maybe they just lost the coin flip or something, but.
Hey, maybe because it's nearby to Bristol, they're in New Jersey. Hey, let's get on the road. Just do this, do this preseason game.
I'm sure they just wanted the Jets on TV, and Atlanta was just the team that they.
we're paying Joe Buck and Troy Aikman all this money, so we'll just take we'll just take the train, bring all the equipment via train, and do Monday Night Football from East Rutherford. You know what? That's actually not a bad take. That's what they did. They said, you know what? We're paying Joe Buck and Troy Aikman all this money to call these games. We got to save money somehow. What's the closest game to us to do? Perfect. We'll put Jets home against the Falcons on Monday Night Football and save our money for the regular season. Okay. I'm convinced of it. All right. Tour Championship. Let's spend a couple minutes here on the in the world of golf. You will have the Golf Guru clan on Wednesday. I would think that's the plan to get ready for the Tour Championship. Why don't you explain to everybody why this contest on DraftKings is a little different this time around?
So, okay. I mean, I just published my PGA cheat sheet before right before the show, so it won't be up on site yet, but it'll go over the starting points and why it's important to know what's going on. But essentially, it's a handicap system at the Tour Championship. Everyone's got a different starting number. So Scotty Scheffler's number 1 ranked in the FedEx Cup. He starts at 10 under. Patrick Cantley's number 2. He starts at 8 under. And then it goes on to varying degrees. Zalatoris is at 7. Schauffele's at 6. Sam Burns is at 5. There's a group of guys at 4 under. And it goes all the way down to even par, where there's 5 guys at even par. And again, it just goes by FedEx Cup rank. So Aaron Wise was 30th. He starts at even par with a few other guys, and it goes from there. And you need to know this because placing points are still intact for this week. If you're playing DFS, you're placing, when Scotty Scheffler tees off, he's going to be in first place, and he's going to get the 10 points for being in first place. So having a 10-shot lead over 5 guys in the field, that's massive. Having even a 2-shot lead over anyone is massive. He's got a way better chance to end the event at first, obviously. And so that's why his price is so expensive this week. At the same time, to counteract that, there's guys at the bottom of the field. We got JT Poston down there at 5,100. Wise at there at 5,400. Yes, these guys are 10 back, but they're uber cheap. And if they move up in the standings, even to a T12, T10 position, with that salary, they're going to be massive, right? So you've got to factor in where these guys are starting. You've got to factor in the birdie potential and the salary. And, there's some real bargains out there. Scott Stallings, he's starting at 3 under. He's only 7,400. He's easily the cheapest guy at 3 under. That's something to know. Jordan Spieth is actually pretty cheap. He's starting at 2 under. He's got a really good course history. But there's other players who are more expensive. John Rahm at 10-9 is a really interesting play this week. He's actually the fifth most expensive player on the board, but he's starting at 3 under. So he's 7 shots back. I actually really like Rahm, though, and I hope people don't play him, because I think if anyone in this field could make up 7 strokes right now, it's probably him. He shot 14 under at this course last year. But those are the stances you're going to have to take. I don't think you should be fading the top 2 players. You're definitely going to want at least one or both in your lineup, because Scheffler's at plus 300, Cantley's at plus 450. These guys are really short in odds because they have an advantage. So you're going to want one, if not both. But, you can also look and say, oh, okay, well, no one's going to pay for, maybe Sam Burns at 9,900. I'll take him, because Sam Burns could get hot. He could win this event. Rory McIlroy won from 5 back in 2019. So, you can take stances with players. There's certain values, but you need to know where they're starting to really know who the values are. So, like I said, Stallings is interesting, and it's just an interesting event. But for DFS, it is it's a little work. You got to think. You got to use your noggin. It's 2 events going on at the same time.
Pool of 30 golfers for the Tour Championship. So not as many golfers. However, it is. Yeah, you're right. That makes sense. You're trying to build. You're not only trying to evaluate how you feel about the golfer on that given course, but also it's not even just the salary, but that handicap that's factored in is important. How about from a betting standpoint?
Yeah, and again, betting is the same. There's essentially 2 ways you can bet it this week. You can bet the regular tournament, the winner with starting strokes. So that's just the winner of the event. How everyone plays out. Scotty Scheffler is a plus 240, he gets 10 strokes to start. That he's a minus 10 to start. That's what you're betting. John Rahm's at plus 16. He's starting 7 strokes back. If you bet John Rahm at plus 1,600, he's got to make up 7 strokes on Scotty Scheffler to win. You got to think about that. But there's also the winner. You can go to the other one, this winner without strokes. This just tracks the players as they go. It pretends as if everyone's starting equal, like a regular tour event. So John Rahm in the winner without strokes is plus 900.
Gotcha.
I'd rather just take Rahm in this because Rahm could shoot 15 under this week and still lose the event, but he could still have the lowest score and be the outright winner in the without strokes department. So maybe he shoots 15 under. He gets to 18 under for the event, but Scotty Scheffler gets to 20 under and Scotty Scheffler wins. But Rahm at 15 under shot like 5 strokes better than Scheffler, and he has the lowest score. That would give you the winner in the winner without starting strokes event. And I think plus 900 is actually fair on Rahm. Again, his putter heated up last week. He shot the lowest weekend rounds at the BMW Championship. I like him. I like going there. I mean, I think we can talk about a few other players too, but
Sure.
I like going to him and Sam Burns at plus 2,500 in this same category. Player can get super hot with the putter. He actually, he came from 5 back to win the Colonial this year and actually beat Scotty Scheffler. So I think Burns is another guy you can look at. I just like Burns' odds here too. Burns and Spieth down there at plus 2,500, a couple guys I would look at. I'm not sure if I'd go any deeper than this. You could maybe take a shot with like an Aaron Wise. Yeah, Aaron Wise is pretty much, that's it. Burns, Spieth, Rahm, Wise. Those are some of the players I got in my target early with the emphasis that like, I'm definitely going to have exposure to Burns in some regard, whether it's like a top 5 player or an outright. And I'm definitely betting Rahm without strokes at plus 900.
Okay. Good start to the week when it comes to golf coverage. And as Jeff said, his golf cheat sheet is available. It is up now on the DraftKings playbook. What is it again? DraftKings.dknation.com. Is it? I always mess that up. It's
DKNation.com.
DKNation.com. There you go.
I think. Just type it in. It usually works for me.
Yeah. Remember that era, you know? Yeah. DKNation.DraftKings.com/golf. There it is in my, web history. That's what they call it. Very good. Okay. I think that's going to do it. Very thorough show today. A lot to talk about, and the Baker news certainly gave us some legs. We will have this show again tomorrow. We will discuss, I think we're going to talk baseball. That's going to end soon. Please. No offense to Meiselman. I love Meiselman. And it was Lamarca. I had enough of this sport, to be quite honest with you. But, we're coming down the stretch, the pennant races, some futures, and I'm sure we'll, maybe Kevin Durant will get traded at some point. Meiselman will have a thought on that and still bet the Celtics. I don't know. But Meiselman, Lamarca, and yours truly tomorrow on this show. And you can catch Jeff again on Wednesday with the golf crew of Reed, Emerson, and Jeff. And they will
that'll probably be we'll be talking football on Wednesdays for a couple of weeks at least after that. Good. It'll be last week of like main golf and then break on that.
It's tough too because later in this week,
coming, man.
Yeah, and the end of this week will begin the third and final preseason week, which is just dreadful because no one plays. So that'll be fun. But we're almost there, everybody. We're getting there. So join us again. We're in the 5 Eastern hour for this show. We take you up just until 6 o'clock before the next Madden Sim begins on YouTube and Twitch. Those of you watching on Twitter, thanks for joining us. Also, don't forget that The Sweat airs live on the DraftKings DK Nation Twitter handle and YouTube and Twitch at 11 a.m. Eastern time. That is how we get the day started tomorrow. So we'll see you then. Thanks for watching.